Introducing the English test designed for you. Convenient, fast, affordable, and trusted by top universities around the world. English testing no longer means paying hundreds of dollars, making appointments, traveling to the test center, and a long, stressful test experience. Now you can certify your English online, anytime, anywhere in the world, at a fraction of the price of other tests. All you need is a computer, your ID, and 1 hour alone in a quiet room. You can take the test whenever you're ready, but be sure to follow all of the rules. The difficulty of the test adapts to each test taker, and it uses unique question types and artificial intelligence to accurately measure your English level in a fraction of the time. Each test is secured by remote proctors, AI, and computer vision technologies. You'll receive your results in 2 days, and you can instantly send them to an unlimited number of schools. Experience a better way to certify your English with the Duolingo.English test.
So here's a timeline of the Duolingo English test. The testing itself takes around an hour. You can obviously take the test from your computer whenever you're ready and whenever you are feeling like you're at the top of your game. The certification takes just 2 days. That means within that time, the test results get reviewed by both AI and real human proctors working remotely. And at the end, after those 2 days, when you get your results, you'll be able to share them with an unlimited number of institutions. So let's look at the test flow within the test. The setup's very quick. It usually takes around 5 minutes to go through the rules of the test and check that all your hardware is working properly. The next part is the adaptive test. So that's about 45 minutes. And in that time, you'll get asked a variety of different questions. And the final 10 minutes is the writing and speaking samples. And those pieces of work after the test, you'll be able to send those along with your score to accepting institutions, and they will help those institutions get to know you and your English proficiency a bit better. The Duolingo English test is a computer adaptive test. So that means that our AI draws on a large number of potential questions, and it makes decisions about which questions to ask you based on how well you've done on previous questions in the test. That means both that the testing experience is much faster than traditional tests, and also that no two tests are the same. So that's both because the test is adaptive and because we've got a large number of different questions. Before getting into that part of the test though, we have the quick setup. So that's where initially you'll test your computer's browsers, speaker and microphone. More later on what it is and isn't okay to use for that. You'll also take a picture of yourself, and using your ID, you'll enter your personal information, and we'll give you a quick overview of all the test rules to make sure that you're familiar with what you can. So next, let's get into the different test questions that there are in the Duolingo English test. Next, let's look at how the Duolingo English test questions might be different from other tests you might have taken in the past. Well, first of all, the questions are very efficient. There's no long reading or writing passages. The longest question in the test only takes around 8 minutes to do. There are also questions from all different English subjects. So you might see writing passages from things like geography or history or science, and you'll see narrative and expository examples of writing as well. The questions get administered randomly, so that means that no two test takers will get the same questions on the same test. And the large pool of questions that we have means that everyone is really getting a unique test experience. So let's dive in and look at some of the different question types here. One is called completing a passage. Read and complete, this one is called. So you can see here that there's a passage. There are parts of words missing. You need to read the passage and complete the words. We also have vocabulary questions like these, read and select and listen and select, where test takers need to select the real English words from the list. So only choose the words that you already know that are real words. We also have typing and speaking statements. So on the left is listen and type. So that's a dictation. You'll hear an audio up to 3 times and you have to type what you hear. On the right is read aloud, the shortest question on the test, where you see a statement and you need to read it aloud correctly and clearly. There's also the interactive reading passages, the longest questions on the test, where you see a text and get asked different questions about the same text. You might have to fill in the blanks, choose a sentence to go between 2 paragraphs, highlight different parts of the answer to answer different questions, and also select a title and a main idea for the text that you've read. There's also questions about describing images, like write about the photo and speak about the photo, where you'll see an image and you need to describe the photo, but go beyond simple labeling of the image and try and describe it in detail. And there's also some longer open response questions, like read then write, or read then speak and listen then speak, where you get a prompt and you need to either write extensively about it or speak extensively about it. And at the end of the test, as we mentioned earlier, there are the writing and speaking samples. So for those, you get given a question, you need to either write or speak on that question for an extended period of time. And after the test, those videos, if it's the speaking or the text from your writing, will be sent to the institutions that you apply to. And that's a way for them to get to know you and your English better than just looking at a score sheet. Below are some top tips on how you can get the best possible score on the Duolingo English test. Firstly, be prepared to show off your very best English skills. So remember that this is a test and we want you to speak naturally, but also try and use the best English that you can. It might help to imagine that you are speaking to or writing to a professor at the university that you're applying to. So try and use slightly more formal and more advanced English than perhaps you would in an everyday conversation. Next, use all the time that you have, right? So some of the writing questions, for example, you get up to 5 minutes. Use all of that time to check and edit your work. So you won't have things like spell checkers. You'll need to do all the editing yourself. So make the most of that time. Next, if you don't know an answer, you can just guess, right? So we don't penalize you for getting answers wrong. It's okay just to guess. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. Just keep going. Don't get distracted by mistakes. For speaking questions, you can't go back and re-record. So just keep going, keep calm and carry on. Next, make sure that you stay relevant to the topic. So one of the things that test takers are graded on is the relevance of their answer. So make sure that you answer the questions that you get asked. And finally, speak and write naturally in your own voice. Don't memorize big chunks of language or try to remember things that you've read somewhere else, perhaps from a preparation course. Those will not help you get a higher score. Let's move on then to talk about the results and how your test answers get scored. So our open-ended questions get scored using an AI-powered grading engine. Okay, so for each answer that you give, it will be graded by 6 to 7 different aspects. So these are below, you can see grammatical accuracy and grammatical complexity. So the first one, grammatical accuracy, just is, are there any mistakes in your answer in terms of grammar? And grammatical complexity is, are you able to use some less common or more complex grammar in your answers? Next is lexical sophistication. So are you able to use precise, specific, and low frequency vocabulary words when necessary? And also lexical diversity. That just means, are you repeating yourself using the same words over and over again, or are you able to avoid repeating yourself? Next is task relevance. So are your answers actually answering the question that you've been asked? Fluency looks at how much you're able to say or write in a short time. And the last of these, acoustic features, this is only for speaking answers, looking at how clear is your pronunciation. Now, your overall test result will be on a scale from 10, that's the lowest, all the way up to 160, and these are given in 5-point increments. So the next score below 160 is 155. Now here's an example certificate. You can see on here at the top there's the overall score. So this test taker got 125. And then underneath that there's a description of what this test taker is able to do based on their performance on the test. Underneath are their sub-scores, and for each of those a score range, and at the very bottom a button to send the results. Now you may notice here that the sub-scores are not simply speaking, listening, reading, writing. So let's look at how those are decided. So the sub-scores for the Duolingo English test are integrated. So the 4 sub-scores are literacy, that's test takers' ability to read and write. Comprehension, that's test takers' ability to read and listen, to process input. Conversation, your ability to speak and listen. And finally, production, that's your ability to speak and write. Next, let's look at test security and proctoring. Because test takers are doing the test in their own home, there is much more responsibility than you would have doing a traditional test face-to-face. So let's look at that now. Firstly then, why is test security so important to us? Well, firstly, it's to protect you, the test taker. We want to make sure that your test is fair, accurate, and that your accomplishment, when you get a great score or you get the score that you want on the test, that gets protected. Secondly, we want to make sure that our tests are secure for universities, not just the universities and institutions that we have now, but also all of those institutions in the future should be able to trust that when they see a score for the Duolingo English test from a candidate, that they can trust that test was done fairly and equitably. And finally, we also think it's important that we set secure tests to set an example for the rest of the industry and encourage more tests to go online in the future. So let's look at some ways that we make sure the tests stay secure. Firstly, there's the design of the test, because we have so many items and because different students get different questions in every test. That means the design of the test makes it very difficult for people to remember answers or remember questions and pass them on to their friends. Secondly, we check your ID. We use a combination of computer vision, AI, and trained proctors to check that the person who says they're taking the test is the person taking the test. We also, as I just mentioned, have remote human proctors who, with the help of AI, check every individual test multiple times. The tests are also locked down, so a test gets cancelled if a test taker tries to access any other external applications during the test. We also use AI and big data to make sure that rules aren't being broken. So we're able to see, for example, if multiple students are using the same way to answer the same question. And as we mentioned earlier, another way is to simply send the video of you answering one of the questions in the test and your written answer to another question, that's the speaking and writing samples, to the universities that you apply to so they can get to know you better. Next, let's look at how the test is proctored. If you think about a traditional high-stakes exam, you might have one proctor looking over a large number of students, like that picture at the top. But the Duolingo English test is different. We have expert human proctors observing each test session. So every student is observed by more than one proctor. And that happens asynchronously. So we use the videos of the tests afterwards to check for any rule breaking. And that's all supported by artificial intelligence, which is able to check for suspicious behavior. But important to remember that all the certification decisions are made by humans. And as we said earlier, it's really much more safe than a traditional proctoring experience where one proctor might look over several students. Here we have several proctors just looking at one student.
What's up, everybody? It's Caroline here from the DET team with tips to help you test your best. This week I'm happy to be here with my friend Nick from the support team.
Hey everyone, it's me, Nick, from the support team.
And how long have you been working with us, Nick?
I've been with the DET for about 2 years now.
Wow, time flies.
It definitely does.
So today we're going to talk about something we get a lot of questions about, which is how to send your scores to universities. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple questions as if I'm the test taker. I just finished my test and I uploaded it. What can I expect next?
Well, the test is going to go through the proctoring process. After 48 hours, you're going to receive an email, and if that test is certified, you will be able to share your scores instantly with any institution that's accepting tests currently.
Okay, so first things first, how do I send results?
Great question. The first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure you're logged in to the correct account on the homepage at englishtest.duolingo.com. Then you're going to scroll down to the test result that you want to share, and you're going to select the big button that says Send Results. After you've selected that, you're going to be walked through a very simple process where you select up to 40 institutions to share your result with, and then once you've confirmed the share, they will be instantly available in those university and programs dashboards to view.
That's pretty cool. So does it cost anything to send all these results to 40 institutions?
No, ma'am. That's a completely free process.
And what if I wanted to send them more to 40 institutions? What if I was a super ambitious student?
Great question as well. And the only extra step that you would need to do in that situation is you would just need to reach out to our support team by selecting the big orange help button at the bottom right of the screen on the homepage. And then one of our support agents will be able to walk you through how to share over 40 very simply.
Hopefully not all of you are applying to more than 40 universities. That's a lot. What other questions do I have? What if I'm a graduate student? How is that different than undergraduate?
So the main difference if you are a graduate student versus an undergraduate student or even an ESL student would just be to make sure that you're keeping track of that program type when you are sharing that result. There's going to be 2 different columns on that table, one for the institution's name, and then on the right of that table there's going to be one that's titled program type. It will be undergraduate, graduate, and it'll be there to let you know that that is the different program that you're sharing to.
Yeah, so make sure you double check that, test takers. If you're trying to send to a graduate or undergraduate program, just double check that you've selected the right one. So to recap, pretty easy process, logged in from the homepage. We can send it to up to 40, and if we want more, we can ask the support team. Completely free of charge to send all these results. And they're available pretty much instantly to the university.
That's correct, 100%.
Wow, that sounds pretty good. So I've sent my results to all the universities I wanted to send them to. What are they going to see on their side?
They're going to be able to see your overall score, your sub-score, your writing sample, as well as your speaking sample.
So those are all the same things that I can see as a test taker,
That's
right?
correct.
Logged in from my homepage. Last question of this video for you, Nick. Let's say I sent my results to the university, but they say they haven't received them. What should I do?
Ooh, that's a good question and a common one. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you did share those results to that institution. The way that you're going to do this is by going down to the same share flow and selecting the Send Results button. Nothing will happen this time, but you will be greeted with a page of your previously shared results. This will show all of the institutions that got the results previously, as well as the program type and the date that you shared it on. Make sure first that you have shared to that institution, and then secondly, and most importantly, you're going to want to look over at the program type to make sure that the right program at that institution received your results. If both of those are true and the institution is telling you still, we don't have it, it's time to click the big help button at the bottom right of your screen and talk to us.
Yep, that's right. That's actually the most common thing we see is that people have sent it to a graduate program when they meant to send to undergrad or vice versa. So make sure you double check all of that. That's all for this one, test takers. Nick, thanks so much for coming to make this video.
No problem. And test takers, if you have any other questions or you'd like us to make different types of videos, leave a comment down below.
Yes, please. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. And best of luck on the tests. We believe in you. Bye, test takers.